In 2014, the Islamic State burst onto the world stage.
A track record of brutality, executions, mass beheadings.
I loved America, and I felt a debt to America, and I hadn't paid her back. I get a phone call, and this guy said, this is Mikeland. You want to join the YPG? Are you ready to fight? Are you willing to die? I said, yes. I prayed, I said, Lord, let your will be done in this area, but I really want to kill them. And then it's like, boom. Then it's fight time. And it was just bedlam. Absolute bedlam.
Our nostrils were full of the smell of the dead. Snipers were everywhere.
And they either ran or they ended up dead.
So here you see that within this man is some real rage. But some people think that he was not sincere in what he was doing.
Like, who's this old British dude?
Oh, he's a movie star coming here for publicity.
A successful Hollywood actor flying in for 6 months and then bug out the other way.
This actor who's becoming a militia fighter. I mean, come on.
What would you say to that?
Turn it off.
So we had doubts about every bit of Michael's story.
Come on! And that.
Are you ready? My name is Mike'l Enright. I'm a professional actor.
Captain, a ship's been spotted.
I was in Pirates of the Caribbean with Orlando Bloom. I worked with Bradley Cooper, John Travolta, Robin Williams. I also did Night and Day with Tom Cruise.
Diesel hydraulics.
The diesel hydraulics.
I did JAG, Cold Case, CSI, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I loved acting. I'd been acting since I was a little boy. Ever since when I got on a TV show called Get It Together in Manchester. But even before that, I can remember we were doing school plays and I'd be cracking jokes and people would laugh their butts off. And I liked that reaction. You know, I'm like, all right. And then another thing was we had a lot of American television, and watching that, I thought, ooh, I want to go there. Everything about America was just so wow to me, as it was exciting and fun and crazy. It was just everything I felt inside of me, and I couldn't wait to get there. And I made it. I couldn't believe I had done it. I was, loved it. I remember waking up on 9/11 and Howard Stern came on the radio.
A plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
You're kidding!
A second plane might have crashed, and a second building is on fire.
And when I heard him say that, I jumped up, ran to the TV, and there it was.
Let's go! What came down? We crashed! The other Trade Center's down! It's down! It's down!
I remember shortly after that, I just cried. Every day I was just crying. All these stories of all these people that had been butchered. And then it switched from pain to anger. I was so angry. I loved America, and I felt a debt to America, and I hadn't paid her back. All I've done is sort of take. So I decided I was going to sign up with the American Army, and I'm going to go and fight her enemies. I'd called to join up, and they left a message. I want to go and fight in Afghanistan. Call me back, please. And they never called, and so I never went. And that became the biggest regret of my life.
June 2014, Islamic State forces celebrating after astonishing the world, sweeping from Syria through northern Iraq to Mosul.
The Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, also known as ISIS, has rapidly morphed into the world's most dangerous jihadist organization.
And I remember when I heard about ISIS, it brought back all those feelings that I'd had at 9/11. It all came flooding back.
They've established themselves as the most recognizable terror brand in the world. Al-Qaeda is almost considered moderate these days.
In 2014, the Middle East was just ripped apart by an unparalleled level of violence. ISIS was marching incredibly quickly through Iraq and Syria. Literally in about 100 days, ISIS had conquered an area of territory around the size of Cuba.
I started seeing news stories about this new terrorist organization called the Islamic State. Ethnic cleansing, mass executions, beheadings. It was the most evil, barbaric thing I had seen.
And what made it worse for me was Jihadi John.
I'm back, Obama, and I'm back because of your arrogant foreign policy towards the Islamic State, despite our serious warnings.
It was an Englishman cutting off the head of an American. An innocent American with his hands tied behind his back.
So just as your missiles continue to strike our people, our knife will continue to strike the necks of your people.
And it was the antithesis of how I felt about America. I was so grateful to America and the American people for everything that I'd had in that life, that I'd lived there. And he was doing that. It just was like an onslaught. First they get an American and cut his head off, and then it was an Englishman, then the Japanese, and then Muath, the Jordanian pilot. That was a very difficult one to watch. They poured paraffin on him, put him in a cage, and then they lit it, and it went right in and burned him alive. And I thought, no.
Last week, fleeing execution, rape and slavery at the hands of so-called Islamic State, tens of thousands of Yazidis fled for their lives through the Syrian desert.
And then I heard about the Yazidis on the news, these people who lived in the Shengal Sinjar mountains, learned that ISIS had gone into that region and literally butchered all the men.
The Islamic State believed many different things. They thought the Yazidis were devil worshippers, believed in shooting boys and men in ditches, enslaving women. Some girls as young as 3 years old were sold into sexual slavery by the Islamic State.
They gang raped them and they sold them in markets, and I would see the videos on YouTube. How much for the blue-eyed Yazidi?
I think many people in the West and beyond were quite appalled and disgusted by this, and also disgusted by what seemed to be the inaction of Western governments.
When the attacks against the Yazidis happened, there was a call for humanitarian intervention, and this led to airdrops of supplies. But the United States and Britain had just spent 10 years in the occupation of Iraq, and there was absolutely no interest in going back in and putting boots on the ground to fight another conflict in the region.
Well, when I saw that stuff, all of these videos, it made me sick. Not just what ISIS was doing, killing civilians, but that armies weren't clamoring to go fight them.
I remember I was like, what? This was so horrible, what they were doing. And so I wanted to hit them back. I mean, there's no talking to that kind of mentality. You have to have action and they need to be stopped. And so I wanted to be part of that. And I started making steps to go.
When I was asked to do an in-depth profile of Mike'l Enright in late 2019, I didn't automatically jump at the story. We had doubts about every bit of Michael's story. From day one of the story, all the way up to the present time. It sounds like something from the mind of a Hollywood scriptwriter. But I made a couple of phone calls, and there was really something there. what really grabbed my interest was the complexity of Michael's need to get involved and risk his life for people he'd never met. It's what makes him an intriguing character.
I wanted to go and fight ISIS, but I knew England and America were not at the time. So I needed to find out exactly who was on the ground.
The Kurdish military has been America's most reliable partner in the war against ISIS. They've done most of the fighting and almost all of the dying.
The Kurds are often described as the largest ethnic group without a state of their own. And that's probably fair. I mean, right now there are about 30-odd million Kurds scattered across the 4 states, Iraq, Turkey, Syria, Iran. And they have no state. When the struggle against Islamic State emerged in Syria, this YPG emerged. They were seen as the one group seriously putting up a fight against Islamic State.
The Syrian Kurds organized themselves and became the YPG. And they were the men and women that were on the ground fighting ISIS.
These Kurdish freedom fighters who were taking it upon themselves to fight back and clean their own backyard, completely outnumbered, outarmed, and ill-equipped.
The Kurdish fighting force, the YPG, they have been a staunch ally of the United States in fighting ISIS.
And the Kurdish fighters are thought to have about 100 Westerners fighting on their side.
The YPG seem to be willing to accept anybody who volunteered to come join them, and I suspect that it's because the YPG needed the sheer manpower involved in fighting against the Islamic State.
While researching Michael's story, we end up diving into this whole netherworld that I didn't really comprehend or really know existed, which is this large number of Western volunteers who decide to go fight in Syria.
I could see who were the good guys in this fight, and I wanted to volunteer, put my life on the line and fight for what I thought was the clearest distinction between good and evil since the Second World War.
There was this perfect enemy. This bad guy had surfaced. Not one real army landed to destroy them. The Americans and Europeans were supporting with air support, as everybody knows. But as for boots on the ground, it was just the YPG, in Syria at least. And that's when I was able to start making moves toward going over there.
At that point, I'd already decided I was going to go, so I called a friend of mine who was British Special Forces, and he was working as a contractor. And I said, listen, I want to go. I want to go and fight. And we had a long conversation about it.
When Michael first came up with the question about entering Syria or joining the YPG, we were actually in a bar watching a Manchester City football game. I was worried about him for a multitude of reasons. You know, we were evacuating people from that region, not sending them up there. You know, this guy had been a Hollywood actor the week before, and he was not prepped for this at all. But he was just adamant he was going to do it.
He's determined. He's not going to listen to anybody. He's not going to listen to reason. He's not going to listen to pleading. Michael is this fly by the seat of his pants kind of person. This is just somebody who acts on instinct, not on careful calculation and planning.
How I helped Michael to join the YPG initially was basically via social media. I knew of groups that were becoming tools on the ground, and the lines of Rojava being one of them.
This is a pretty exceptional war. This is one of the first wars, I'd imagine, where the recruits of the armies were drawn from Facebook and other social media. I discovered a page called the Lions of Rojava that had only just been set up by an American called Jordan Matson. He had been injured in Syria just a few weeks before. He called for other international volunteers to come out.
Lions of Rojava said buy a one-way ticket, fly into northern Iraq, and contact us once you bought your flight and we'll give you a contact person. I sold everything I had. I had a Porsche 911. I sold that to fund me going. I sold everything.
I talked to a lot of Michael's friends and colleagues in Los Angeles, and to a person, they were horrified that he was talking about going over to Syria. But in many ways, they were not surprised. This is Maikel Enright reacting with his heart, reacting with his gut, not necessarily thinking everything through.
I thought this could be a setup. You know, the whole thing could be a setup. It could be ISIS. I thought, to hell with it. I'm gonna roll the dice. So I bought the flight. And then I texted him, hey, how you doing? This is Maikel Enright. You told me to buy a flight. I bought the flight. Can you let me know the contact person? Didn't get back in touch. Like, what is going on here? So I texted them again and I put it all in big caps. Contact person, contact person, contact person. I get a phone call and I'm getting on the phone like, hello? And this guy said, this is Maikel? I said, yes. He said, you want to join the YPG? I said, yes. He said, are you ready to fight? Are you willing to die? I said, yes.
Based on this interchange with a person whose face he's never seen, Maikel Enright launches himself into the Middle East. It's this mashup of recklessness and aspiration, which very likely could have ended up with Maikel Enright in an orange suit, having his head chopped off in an ISIS video.
I flew to Iraq. I met a couple of guys at a hotel, a predetermined hotel. I got in a truck and I went, let's roll. And that was the start of my journey with the YPG. We went down to the river, to the Tigris, right on the border of Iraq and Syria. And we have to cross at night because we're entering the country illegally. And we went across in a dinghy. And we go straight to what's called the academy. You wake up in the morning, you do exercise. You go for a run. And then you do a language lesson. You learn some Kurdish. And then you started to learn about the YPG and the YPJ. YPJ is the women's unit. The YPG believes in equality between the sexes. So it's a matter of if you've got the fight in you and in your heart, and you know, that's what that's about. It's not a gender thing. And so you've learned a lot, and it was interesting.
At the academy, the Kurds gave us like an understanding of the difference between, you know, the cultures and the groups and the ethnicities over there, in addition to coaching us up on the weapon systems.
We got weapons training, where you learn to dismantle the Bixie machine gun, you learn to dismantle your Kalashnikov, you learn to put it back together. Before I went to Syria, I'd never used a weapon. I certainly didn't know how to dismantle one. I hardly knew how to take the safety off. I never wanted to. I never liked guns.
Ooh. Fucking hell. Excuse my language. Woo, baby!
Actually, I shot a Kalashnikov in a commercial I did.
Come on, let's roll!
I played a bank robber, and I actually used the same weapon that I would use for real in Syria.
Shoot!
But that's the only time I'd ever touched weapons before then.
The training for volunteers in Syria with the YPG, at first, it was only 2 weeks long. It was not enough, for sure. It's just because there was a war, they needed people to go on the front quite quickly, and the best they could do was that.
Just imagine being Maikel Enright. You're this actor who's becoming a militia fighter against a vicious organization like ISIS. I mean, come on. You're not qualified. You know nothing about guns. You've never fought in a war. you would not do this. It would be a suicide mission. And yet, he's determined.
When you were in the academy, you got a name. The other volunteers were given names, but I chose my name because there was a Pakistani man that I'd worked with when I was 18. My father had just died, and this guy sort of became a little bit of a father figure in a way. His name was Mustafa. So in honor of him, I named myself Mustafa Rۆژاڤا, because the part of Syria I was in, the Kurdish part, is called Rۆژaڤa.
Where do you come from? What's your family situation? What's your story?
What's my story? How many hours do you have? My name is Mایکڵ ئینرایت. My Kurdish guerrilla name is Mustafa Rۆژaڤa.
You about how you found out about the situation here?
Yes.
What's going on in Kurdistan and the Middle East?
Yeah. I don't like bullies. I never like bullies. And to see them with a man with his hands tied behind him, who has no hope of defending himself, and then some man come along and slice his head off.
What is your conviction? What do you feel when you are here, and what do you want to achieve being here?
I want to stand up like a man and kill them and help to eliminate them. And, you know, in whatever small part I can play in that, I want to do that. Yeah, with all the هەڤاڵs. And with everybody, not just Kurdish people, because this is not just a Kurdish fight. This is everybody's fight.
My name is Jeremy, Kurdish name Sipan Ahmed.
Je m'appelle Gaba, je suis français.
My Kurdish name is Gaba Ahmed.
The International Volunteers, they're a broad church of political ideals. They all go to Syria for different reasons to join the YPG and the YPJ.
Before this, I was a student and I studied philosophy.
I came out here because I believe in revolution.
We are here to defend Rojava against whatever the biggest threats it faces.
These people were exceptionally strong-willed and willing to lay their life on the line.
John Gallagher was probably the smartest guy I met out there, and very philosophical kind of person.
My name's John from Windsor, Ontario. I served in the Canadian military for 3 years, and a few of my good friends got killed. So I suppose I've been living with that for the last 10 years or so. Yeah, psychologically, I guess that makes it pretty easy to explain why a lot of us are here.
There was an Australian, Reese Harding, who was a friend of mine. He was by far the best looking out of all the Westerners anyway. I told him, I said, if you was in LA, mate, I'd put you in touch with a couple of modelling agencies I know. He was so handsome and such a sweet person.
The Kurdish people are lovely people. I've never met such a nice group of people. If anything happens to me, my parents, I love you. Brother, I love you. And Isabel, I love you. Thanks.
There are a lot of guys that sacrificed a lot when they went over there. There were guys that sacrificed their lives to go over there.
Sometime after the academy, the YPG found out I was an actor, and they said to me, we want you to film your time with us. They said, you know, can you carry the camera? Can you do some media for us? And I said, no, I came to shoot, but not with a camera. And they said, you can keep your gun. It's like, we're not taking that away, but England isn't helping at all. And because you're a famous actor, not a famous actor, but that's what they perceived. They said, we think you can help us. I said, okay.
The YPG and YPJ, they always encouraged international volunteers to speak up, to talk their mind, to write articles, to go on the press. Many international volunteers didn't want to do that.
Oh, no videos, man.
Others didn't want to draw attention to themselves.
So on an operation, I'll have my camera like that, and then click, safety on, and then boom, in we go. After training, I was with a Kurdish unit, all Kurds, which I liked. I liked it a lot, actually. I'm traveling with these boys. Naftachiya. Argesh, Naftachiya, Həۋاڵ. And then our driver, who's an expert driver. Hoca. Başı. Yapıge.
Yes.
Bismillah. but I could change units. Hey, Captain! See ya! Come on. And I would change, literally, I would do an operation with one in the morning, and then I would see them going on another one in the afternoon, and I would just leave and go with the new operation. I was really hyped up, because I played those guys in films. It's like you're about to go on a raid, you're a SWAT member, and they're all, you know, I always played it like, you're ready to go. And in actual fact, that's not how it is. You're having a laugh, you're totally relaxed. Say hi, boys. Hi. Look at that handsome man there. Hey, what, Tony or what? Bossy? Sometimes I'd make jokes.
Hello. It looks like you're the only Dash we've met.
ISIS in that part of the world is called Daesh. And they hate being called that. That's why I prefer Daesh than ISIS, you know.
How are you? Everyone good? Looking a little sad, yes, we took your village.
You know, a lot of war is doing nothing. It's hour after hour, day after day, week after week of doing nothing. And it's really boring.
Most of the time, you weren't on some sort of offensive. You were slowly taking ground and holding it. Slowly taking ground and holding it. And that was the majority of the experience.
So our food didn't arrive, so we're gonna try and see if we can find some food. I think some of the gentlemen have found some. Oh, I say, how uncivilized. Oh well, if you can't go through the door, I guess you can always go through the window. And I remember going in one store and I saw a mirror, and it was like, oh yes, a mirror. Oh, wow. We've got a mirror. Little Saving Private Ryan action. Break that off. Will that fit in there? Yep, very nicely. There you go. So when Dash comes, I can look down the corner. Saving Private Ryan. I've watched it about 50 times. I've only got 2 films downloaded. Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List. And Tom Hanks goes like that. So I thought, I like your style, Tommy. I like your style.
You know, when you're at war, most of your time is spent when you're not fighting. So there is a lot of boredom.
Day 5 now of this place.
It gets frustrating. You're doing absolutely nothing, you know, for a long time. And then you get the word, you know, that you're going to go on an operation. And then it's like, boom. Then it's go time. And you switched on.
So they've got a sniper shooting right at that location, is that?
But the first time I got shot at, that was a trip. We had Dash completely surrounded, and we'd just been bombing them. Bomb, bomb, bomb.
Oh, me.
And we were shooting back and forth. And then it was two shots.
Yeah, canas.
The ISIS sniper hit the rock right next to my face, and it goes boom. And the rock hits me in the face from his bullet. That was the first time that had happened that specifically for me. And that pissed me off. But the adrenaline was in, and I was so angry, and I thought, at least give him something back. So I just took aim, and I just held it up, and I just went. So at least he was getting something back. At least we knew where he was, because that'll sometimes make a sniper move. Sometimes the best way to kill an enemy is to hold them in place with suppressive fire. Then call in air support from the Americans, the Brits, the French, and they'll come and drop a bomb right on their ugly heads. Get on the end of that.
Why would you go be an insurgent in somebody else's civil war There's got to be something else that's motivating people to go travel to these countries where they have never been, don't know anybody, to go fight as a rebel.
I think Michael's psychological state at the time is simultaneously one of great clarity and one of a great fog. The clarity of purpose, the fog of not understanding the consequences.
The common theme that I encountered in studying both fighters for ISIS and against ISIS is motivation. Motivation, motivation, motivation. For self-sacrifice, for adventure. Michael Enright had this motivation to a very high degree. Despite the hedonistic life that he had in Hollywood, there was something missing, a gaping hole. And for him, it meant something very, very specific. The motivation for significance, to matter, to be somebody.
Michael is the product, by his own account, of a very unhappy childhood home. He describes his father as a tough guy, abusive.
I first met Michael at a really young age. Growing up in Manchester was extremely violent. For me and Michael, especially when you come from a violent upbringing and you're being physically, emotionally, and mentally punished.
Yeah, I got hit a lot. I got sometimes put in hospital. My dad would go too far. I'd go to school with lumps on my head. Sometimes my dad would black my eye, break my fingers and stuff. So it was tough. I would be crying from the emotional pain of that happening. Somebody who loved you, was supposed to protect you, was abusing you. And I was getting hurt every day. So when I was 16 years old, I moved out of that house.
Michael's father, like mine, beat him severely. I think that's one of the reasons that makes us the hard characters we are, and also being there for people who are vulnerable, needy, and bullied.
Michael Enright, his father punished him. He was tough. He wanted to show that he's just as tough, but he's tough in a very positive way. He adapted an ideology of protection, of standing up for the weak and downtrodden.
That was one of the biggest reasons I'd gone, is because they were raping these women and these little girls. These Daesh fighters were bidding on one of the little Yazidi girls. I used to keep that on my phone, and before we'd go on an operation, I'd watch it just to sort of go, that's who we're going for. That's who we're going for. You know, that's who I'm going to fight. So I was ready. I was absolutely ready.
People that joined the YPG, I would give them credit that they wanted to fight something that we all want to fight. I mean, I don't ever want to pick up a gun, but I certainly want to see ISIS defeated. So I'm thankful to whoever did pick up guns to defeat them.
Band of brothers, this idea of band of brothers who died together, who are facing death together, this is a kind of fusion, the kind of glue that keeps people together more than anything else.
As far as my experience, as far as it comes to the YPG, yeah, they all loved each other. It was like a big family.
And this one, I love him.
Remember, Michael is someone that wasn't appreciated in his own family by his father. He's found a new family, and this family is a family of heroes.
There was one person who became really close to me. You know, he was almost like family. His name was Chia. Chia was my commander, and he put me under his wing. He was great. He used to wear a cowboy hat. He was this insane kid, was insane in so many ways. He was so funny. He was a rapper.
This is our commander. This is Hăvāl, but he's also known as a rap star. He's the Kurdish rapper. Rap, baby, go!
أمودنا لقاية داعش برمدرفية نخبة قصدية يا باقي أمريكانا مصطفى الفدرية صحفية الفدرية دشيتية مخرجة دردخية داعش نماية فدرية دشيتية هاني درب الفدرية نوير دوير الفدرية جسرت ناقية مدينة بيش خودة دشينية مشبوطية جسرت نينا
أيوة! That's how we do it, Kurdish style.
And he was so funny because we'd be on the front and all hell would be breaking loose.
We just heard a mortar go off, so we're waiting for, here we are. Except brave man over there. Get down! Kwadaki! Kwadaki! Here we go.
Everyone's like, Mustafa, Kwadaki, get down, and we'd all be running for cover.
So you get as close as you can. Ooh, I can hear it. Fuck.
And Chia, he's walking down his radio. I'm like, damn. Mr. Cool and Luke, he was just like Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now. Everyone else is freaking and he's just walking like down the beach like, Charlie's not gonna get this. Charlie doesn't surf. He was so cool.
Rosbosh. That'll wake you up.
So everybody knew Chia and everybody really looked up to him. He was one of those commanders that really led from the front, and the Kurds did that a lot. Our commanders, that's one of the best things about the YPG was the leadership. I really respected them. I really respected them so much.
One thing that a lot of people don't know about the YPG is that much of the leadership of the YPG is women.
And they called it a feminist revolution. It really was. Up to that point, I always thought that women shouldn't be on the front line. Not because I'm macho man and we'll do the fighting, no. Because I care about them and I don't want them to get hurt. And it's like if someone's gonna take a risk of losing the legs or getting shot in the face, I don't want to be it to be in your pretty face. I'll take that risk. And then you meet the YPJ and it totally turns that on its head because all of a sudden those thoughts just leave you because they sure as hell don't need me to protect them. The YPG don't need my protection.
I can remember one time in Tel Tamr, we got ambushed by the Islamic State as we were trying to take a position, and I was hiding in the dirt because I was terrified. Bullets were smacking into the ground around me. They were screaming at us. They knew that it had got us. And I can remember turning to my left and seeing a young girl who I knew was only 18 years old stand up with an RPG, fire it at the Islamic State, swear at them, and then obviously hit the dirt again. And she didn't get shot. It was remarkable. And I can remember being shamed by it, thinking to myself, wow, these girls are brave, fighting, and putting the fear of God into the people that are fighting. Because the Islamic State believed that if they were killed in battle by a woman, that they wouldn't get the rewards of a martyr. They wouldn't get the 72 virgins that was due them.
داعش جنيت تشتك حساب ناكي يعني هاجر تشتك حساب كربا دسوكا داند وكي دي دبي سركفتني ده ام دكارم بيجن دما جو داعش دبا الانا دبو وكي جو تشاوا ما قلت يعني ما قلت بو امي وكي يبجي قبل كدري ببلا ببو وهلا
I think one of the reasons why I had a bond with the Kurds is because they have such self-respect for themselves. If someone has self-respect and shows you respect, how can you not fall in love with that? So I was committed to this fight, and I never wanted to go home. I mean, I never wanted to go home until we'd taken Raqqa, because that's their capital. That's like you're invading England and you take London.
ما بي قرار دابو بشتيجو إلشي داعش لسرشنجا لتشبو يعني درقة دشخوا داعش ما قلت يعني عاصمة خوا ما قلت بو أمي مس شعار كبيرنجي أفكر بو.
But by the end of 2015, we hadn't taken Raqqa. We'd been in a sort of hold, and there was going to be many, many months of doing nothing. So I'd already completed my 6 months tour. So I thought this would be a good time to take a break, to go and see my mother and my sister. And then my plan was I'd come back in time for the Raqqa operation.
when Michael flies to Mexico. This undeniable problem sort of dawns on him as he's coming home. That he has been living in the United States for 3 decades on a tourist visa that has been expired for 3 decades. And he has to figure out a way to come back home. Think about that. He figures that the San Ysidro border crossing is the most busy border crossing in the United States. And he figures that he can do what he always does, which is act. And he will just blend in with the crowd. And of course it does not work out. Of course he is caught.
I was stopped at the border because I'd overstayed my visa. Then they took my phone. And I remember an immigration officer, or young guy, came back and went, "What's this?" And he showed footage from my head cam from my first tour when we fought Daesh. We just put all the bodies together, and I had footage of that. And he said, "What is this?" He said, I just, what's all these dead bodies? You got footage of dead people on your phone. I went, "Oh yeah, I was a soldier. I just came back from Syria." And then boom, so Homeland Security came immediately. I told them all I could. Told them everything.
He is detained, and he is put in one of these horrible detention centers where the lights are on all day and you're stuffed into a small cell with many, many people. And it is there that he says that he had this very special encounter with U.S. law enforcement officials.
I remember there was one interview, I went in there and there was an intelligence officer. She was blonde, and she said, she'd try and help me sort of work it out with them. And we had a long conversation about it, and that's when I started to hear about the deal.
Michael says that he was given this extraordinary offer, an offer to have his immigration problems disappear if he was able to go back to Syria and provide actionable intelligence about ISIS.
And they said, if you can help us get a bad guy, we'll let you come home. I said, "Well, how are you going to do that?" And they said, "With the American government, we can do anything we want." I said, "Okay."
The most elusive character in the Michael Enright story is the woman he calls Laura the Blonde Lady. She is the woman that he says offered him this amazing deal. There's no video documentation of that. There's no paper documentation of that.
The question is whether it's his naivete or is there a deeper psychological reason why he believed the woman that allegedly made him the offer. It all hinges on his great motivation to be recognized. What the woman was suggesting to him, do this one thing for America and you will be recognized and probably welcome, given a hero's welcome, or at least a visa in recognition of your great contribution to our fight against terrorism, against ISIS.
So that's when I decided to return to Syria and gather intelligence about the Islamic State. And the next thing I knew, I was being put on a plane with 3 Homeland Security agents, and I was escorted back to England.
And then there was this other really crazy thing that I had significant doubts about. And that was that his deportation had this very unusual element to it, that he was flown to England by 3 law enforcement officials of the United States. To me, that sounded really off the charts. But guess what? That checked out. That was something that we were able to confirm on the record officially from the United States government.
I went back to England spent some time with my family. And then in June 2016, I went back to Syria to try and get a bad guy, just like I'd promised.
Oh, it's so good to see you. Oh, I miss you so much.
The second time really was about Raqqa, because I wanted to go to Raqqa. But also, that was an ingredient in it, if I can get intelligence. We just found this, which is obviously some type of mine. This is a training. This is what they designed for their training center. I wanted to search for intelligence so I could go home to America. I went to fight at the front, and I had been without any internet access. I got back from the front, went on to check my Facebook, because that's the only way I was in contact with people, and I read this Facebook post that Jordan Madsen had done.
Jordan Madsen said Michael was unstable, that he was a danger to himself and to others, that the Kurds did not like him, and that they had taken off the pin of his fire of his Kalashnikov, that he had tried to commit suicide, and that the authorities should do something to remove him from Rojava. And he had posted this on his Facebook page.
Let's talk about your boy, Michael Enright, all right?
I put him in 4 different actual combat we're called TAC wars, or TAC homes, which are smaller, which is platoon and company level. And he was systematically kicked out of each one for being unstable.
When you go into an army, you get close with your other soldiers, and he was another soldier, and I just couldn't believe it.
Jordan Madsen is one of the more interesting of the American volunteers who've joined the YPG. First, because he was among the first. He went to Syria, I believe, in 2014.
He was all over the media. He was on Fox News all the time. They really put him up there.
My next guest is an American veteran and a Christian who traveled to Iraq to fight with the Kurds in northern Iraq against ISIS.
I was looking for a way to join one of the militias fighting against ISIS. I just had enough of it, and I decided if my government was going to do something, I was.
Me and several others are going to stay here till this fight is over with and see it through. And I thank you all for your support and your prayers.
The YPG had been using him as their face for the Westerners. And so he was all over the media. And they even gave him the nickname Captain Kurdistan. And instead of Captain America, they named him Captain Kurdistan.
Defeating the Islamic State required having competent forces on the ground willing to engage in close combat with the Islamic State. And the United States was not willing to do that, which is why we depended so heavily upon the YPG and the Western volunteers of the YPG.
Jordan, he was the first one that actually recommended helping the Kurds.
He really has been essential to helping guys get over there. And yeah, he's a good guy. I have a lot of respect for him.
He had 30,000 fans following him on Facebook. And hundreds and hundreds of people had liked and commented on this story. The Daily Mail and other newspapers wrote more articles, negative articles.
That's how I got involved with Michael's story. I was following it because I knew him before he left. We were friendly. And then I read the articles, and it was ridiculous, I thought. They had these accusations on Madsen. There were a lot, and they went viral. And it was clear to me that you really got to step through each accusation one at a time and look into it.
Right now, basically, from what I'm told from our chain of command, is he traveled with them because he says he's making a movie or a documentary.
I had heard that some people were thinking, oh, he's a movie star coming here for publicity.
We end up talking to all of these people who have nom de guerres and come from places all over the world, not just the United States, Spain, other parts of Europe. This is a really kind of eclectic group of very interesting and unique people. Some of these people think that he was not sincere in what he was doing.
So this is my first day, Hەڤاڵ, here, camera here. Oh. No.
Even among his fellow volunteers, they saw a guy from Hollywood. They thought maybe he was trying to enhance his career, give himself a boost, get better roles, move from being the supporting cast in the movie to being the star.
Film this. Are you filming? Are you filming? Hەڤاڵ, are you filming?
The accusation would have been, oh, you're just here to, make a film, you're here for the glorification. Surviving in, being a successful Hollywood actor or semi-successful Hollywood actor, flying in for 6 months, get the story, and then bug out the other way.
See you later, boys.
I think throughout history you can find foreign fighters who have inflated their battlefield resume, or whether it's to sell memoirs, or because they like to tell tall tales. There are always incentives for people, especially maybe the extreme personalities who go off to become a foreign fighter.
There are stories of people that joined the YPG that just went there to have a picture of themselves with a gun, and they joined for good and for bad reasons. And, sometimes it was a photo op.
So get us both in. Okay. Okay, so get us both in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people come with diaries and GoPros looking for fame,
I was given the task by Mike'l Enright to find him a camera in Sulaymaniyah in Iraq, a GoPro camera that was able to shoot the quality of footage that he was after. And this camera was just absolutely crucial in getting his story out to the world.
Thank you, and this is my cameraman. Shukran. Shukran. There you go. Looks like Dash is Kalas here.
When you come there with all these things to record what you're doing, and you're not really there to fight. I mean, maybe part of you is, but that's not the main reason you're there.
Hello. Not the first time I've been mic'd. They want to ask you about Yepija.
I think there was animosity towards him because he was an actor. A lot of the people that were coming there were ex-professional soldiers, and they had a tendency to consider people that were not as wannabes.
I guess they were saying that he was in places where he was never even fighting, and it was just like, what are you doing?
On the right, this is close to where I was. This is close to where we were fighting. Some of the bullet holes in this building are from my Kalish.
When you have certain people that show up and come over there for the wrong reasons, they can tarnish what it is that the rest of us are doing.
I'm going to the front again, and if you go, you go. That's the way that is. Yeah.
I don't even understand what you're talking about. Go over there and go friggin' fill up a water pail or something. You know what I mean? The big boys are here now.
If you wanted to throw on a YPG uniform and sort of hang around in the rear area with the headquarters, you could have done that. It makes it look like you're really involved, but not be.
Mike'l was doing a lot of filming, so it could have looked to some people like it was a career boost to build his ego.
The difference between me and a lot of the guys that join, a lot of the guys don't have prior military training.
Obviously, he wasn't a trained fighter. But is he a danger like Jordan Mattson claimed?
There were a lot of guys that weren't ex-military or whatever, but they definitely had to get their shit together rickety-tick. I had a lot of laughs with Mike, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'd want to, be in a combat situation with him. I wouldn't mind being at a bar with him, I'll tell you that. I don't know if I want him, watching my back during a firefight. Mike'l Enright kind of has like a loud personality, and maybe a lot of guys felt like, who's this old British dude, that's never been in the military? I guess people resent that kind of stuff. You know, and you're not going to jeopardize my life, and you're not going to jeopardize anybody else's life.
This was the main issue for people with no previous military experience, is that they were too eager to fight. They didn't understand what it really meant, and they didn't realize that it was not a game. You're gonna get killed, or you're gonna get other people in trouble.
Timon, no. Every time Mustafa laid that, no. Everyone else laid up, come on.
Some of these guys being the one that you were going to be fighting alongside, if you were going to have to depend on him to return fire while you reloaded your magazine or spotted, you know, movement coming towards you or any kind of situation like that, it was definitely a concern that some of those guys that were there for the wrong reason being able to perform like that under pressure.
Hold it for me. Stay still. Jesus.
At the moment, I'm doing security for him. Which is kind of weird, because part of me would like to fucking smash the shit out of him. I would like to kick him right in his fucking mouth, him.
So why'd you start fucking bullshitting me, motherfucker? Huh? How many fuckers did you rape, bitch? How about that? Now, which do you want to fucking do, motherfucker? You want to start telling the truth, or do you want to start fucking lying? Which do you fucking want?
They were going to war, let's not make bones about this.
There's one airstrike.
You know, he had no formal military training at all. And, you know, you can't guarantee what your mental status will be in a situation like that until you've actually been in a situation like that.
We killed a lot of people fighting Daesh, and we just put all the bodies together, just let them there to rot, and the dogs would come very often and eat them, which was rather fitting for them to go that way, actually, if you ask me.
He thought it was just perfect that the dogs were eating the heads of the ISIS fighters. So here you see that within this man is some real rage. It's not exactly the reaction that everyone would have to seeing a human being's head being eaten by a dog.
Yeah, Raka. Me and you fucking dirty motherfucker. Oh, you forgot the piece of shit. You forgot the piece of fucking shit.
هەڤاڵ ممنوع
Jordan Masson said that Michael Enright was bragging about taking part of combat, which he never did because he didn't have a weapon he could actually use.
Did they really take the bolt out of his AK?
Yes, sir. A man from New Zealand, he will confirm that he did that as well.
He just went on. It was never ending. These accusations that the Kurds wanted to kill him. And then he said that Mike was disrespecting other Westerners for his own gain.
I was told he sold a story to Reese Harding, who recently died. He sold some pictures to Australian Channel 7.
Reese Harding was a friend of mine, and he stepped on a mine. And I had this footage of him, and he'd just been killed. Madsen had said, I got paid to give that, and he just wouldn't stop.
So the question is, are all these accusations true?
I met Jordan Madsen on the way over to Syria. He found out that I was an actor, and he said some disparaging remarks about that. Like, oh yeah, that's all we need, you know, an actor hit out here. And it was no big deal, and we went and we played chess, and he beat me. Which means he's good, because I'm quite a good chess player.
Madsen had a little bit of military service. I think he served for about a year. It's a little unclear of why he was no longer in the U.S. Army. It sounds like the U.S. Army put him out of the Army.
After just a year in the Army, Madsen says he was forced to leave in 2007 due to emotional stress.
I couldn't go back in because they said I had PTSD.
You have to understand Jordan Madsen was someone who were in the American Army but was never deployed. and was there for a short amount of time. In 2014, when we created this new international volunteers line, Jordan Mattson was the face that we used in the international media.
On the ground tonight is Jordan Mattson, a former US soldier who went to fight against the Islamic State with the Kurds in northern Syria.
So how do people react to you when they see you and realize you're from the US? They asked me if I'll come over for dinner and stay the night at their house.
And this guy started to spread lies about Michael, saying that, oh, you're an actor, you're just here for the photos, and the Kurds did not like him, that he was an unstable person, that they had taken the bolt out of his gun.
The danger of not having a firing pin in your weapon is, hell, you think you have a functional weapon. It would be essentially driving your car and your brakes don't work. I mean, you basically sent someone in a lion's den unarmed.
We don't send anyone to the front lines without a bullet which they can use for kill and to protect themselves. We don't send especially an international volunteer from Hollywood.
So the first thing he did when he came to Second, he showed me his gun. And I checked it. The bolt was there, the ammunition was there, so it was a fully functioning Kalashnikov, and this story was bullshit.
As for Mattson's claim that Michael was there for a career boost or to film himself doing cool stuff, you have to remember it was the YPG that asked Michael to film.
When I first came here in March, beginning of March in 2015, one of the leaders, he asked me to do this job, which was to work with a headcam and to film. And I said, but I came to fight. I said, do I get to still fight? And he said, you have a gun. It's not a violin. And I thought, I said, where would you like me to film? He said, anywhere there's fighting. And I knew from talking to some of the Westerners already that one of the frustrations that the Westerners had is that they didn't get to fight sometimes. I said, and I go into different tabors, you know, different units. He said, yeah, one unit is not fighting, you go to the other one. I thought, ding. But to do it, he gave me a note, and what that note says is allow me to go back and forth to the front. And so it gives me a freedom of movement that really no other Westerner has.
I'm not surprised at all that Michael was given the task by the YPG and YPJ to actually utilize his skills, tell their story. And I'm very glad he did.
Avia تثبيت جديدة أجتهد بيستكلكو مايكل شورشة رۆژاڤا باكوري سورياي ناسنامايا مايكل بي فانكرم بيقومان برجرينجا أم جبوي سركفتن تخازم و حتى داوية مدستيك.
Michael's reputation with us at the YPG, us Kurds, were actually very good. And to see that you have left Hollywood, you have left your name that you have created throughout years to come to just give it away like that for people who doesn't even know your face and name, that's honorable.
So tell us what happened. You were just walking along and you and your mate found this miner.
And how about the accusation that Michael had profited by selling footage of a fallen Australian soldier?
New video has emerged showing the Gold Coast Reese Harding in his final days, clearing landmines placed by Islamic State militants in Syria.
Obtained by 7 News, this soldier's helmet cam records the 23-year-old Australian known to his Kurdish mates as Hەڤاڵ Bagok.
When I had that footage of Reese, I found out he died and made a lot of inquiries, and I find out his mum and dad, they live in Australia, Michelle and Keith. And I've got footage of her son, and I found out her details and asked her if she wants this footage or not, and I sent it to her and she got back to me, thank you for that. And I said, listen, I said, do you want me to release this to the media in Australia? Because I think he's an Australian hero. I said, but if you don't, I won't. And she said, honour him everywhere. I said, okay. So I gave it to, I think it was Channel 7 over there. I just gave it to them and said, the only reason you've got it is because she gave me permission to give it you.
هەڤاڵێکی کەسێکی دن بناوی جۆردن ماتسون هەیە گوت چاپەمەنیە جیهانی دار سەر یەپێگیژی ئاخفیە یەپێگە ئینسانات کوژە و مایکل تهدید کرد فلان ببن ونیش دبیرن که حتی ها دوستانی ما و مایکل بردوامه
I am very glad for all the volunteers who joined us, but there are also a lot of difference between them. From what I have read the reports from my own fellow commanders, Jordan was not someone who was known by us as someone who was truthful. And Jordan Madsen's lies, it still sticks in with a lot of international volunteers. And unfortunately, the news, especially in the West, they like what they see. So you have one guy who's tall and who looks handsome in the news, people fall for that. Then you have someone who's more older and people like, oh, you haven't done what this Rambo-looking guy have done. While the truth is totally opposite.
I wrote the Daily Mail a long letter about how they got this story completely wrong and how in the world could they take a Facebook post and destroy somebody's life with it.
I just started to pray for him. And I didn't stop praying for him. I never stopped praying for Jordan Madsen. I prayed for him all the time. I prayed every day.
I don't think Madsen knows Michael. And if he did, he wouldn't be saying those things about him. I'm glad to see that Madsen's story has been completely dismissed and found to be the outright lies that they are.
Just because Mike may have dimmed his shine or may have put him in the back seat or the back burner, it does not give him the right to say the things that he said and to do what he did. I think the guy is personally just a piece of shit. I'm a veteran in the U.S. Army, and we don't talk about each other in the press. We don't talk about each other on social media. This is a brotherhood. And I may be retired, but I still know how to work my hands. And so if you talk shit about people that I know, that I love, then you must be prepared to back it up. And if you fall on your sword for some bullshit, then you got to be prepared for me to walk over your fucking dead body. And that's how I feel about people talking shit about Mike.
But you know what really pissed me off about the Madsen thing is it was just jealousy and pettiness and gossip. And it just distracted from the real crisis, the real reason I was over there, the fact that ISIS was killing these innocent Kurds and Yazidis. And I wasn't there to do tittle-tattle and internet gossip. I was there to kill ISIS.
The fighting in Syria was horrendous. It was dark, it was confusing, it was nightmarish, it was chaotic. Our nostrils were full of the smell of the dead, the smell of the airstrikes, the mortars were just constant, the snipers were everywhere.
It was pretty full on, and this was the start of the big push into Raqqa. I remember one operation, we were moving out, and I was in the mortar pit. We were firing mortars and trying to get their position, and they were mortaring trying to get our mortar pit. And some of the Kurds going round the corner to start an operation, they were walking past. And one of the YPJ said hi to me. She said, "Hey, Mustafa." And I recognized her. She went, "Hi." And I said, "Oh, hey." And I said hi to her. And within 5 seconds of her saying hi to me, one of the ISIS mortars came in, injured one of them very badly, and killed the guy in front of her.
So that was a mortar that just came at us. This time. So we're gonna move out the way here. Someone just got injured. Oh, we just got a really bad injury right now. Fuck.
And Chia, boom, was right over there. Picked up the guy, we didn't know, because you don't know whether he's dead or he's just badly injured, and ran him back. You never get over that. I mean, 1 minute, there's your Hەڤاڵ, who's been in the trenches next to you, you know, and then next minute, they're carrying his body out, he's dead. It gets to you, you know, and it got to everybody, I think. But Chia was the guy who knew what to say to all of us.
ما في شيء صعب يوقف وجهنا. خطينا أصعب المناطق، مشينا لوين ما قدروا يواجهونا بالشكل العسكري. وبتمنى من كل الرفاق الحقد، الكراهية، الانتقام للشهداء حطوا بين عينيكم روحوا. تراجع ما في، تقدم فيه وانتصار فيه. الكل يكون عنده هدف. تمام؟ تمام. الانتصار! الانتصار! فلتحيا الشهداء! فلتحيا الشهداء! فلتحيا الشهداء! الانتصار! الانتصار! يلا جاسوا عنكم!
أيوة.
Speaking with Michael about some of his time in Syria, I mean, some of the things he saw, I don't know how he coped with it. I don't know if I could have coped with it.
So, 2 children have just been killed an hour ago. They found some unexploded mines. You could hardly tell. Can you imagine? It's no wonder kids, you know, they're playing in their streets that they live in. And there's an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old who were dead 1 hour ago, were quite happily playing. And then, you know, they stand on the Daesh mine.
It just, the pain that the Kurds and the Arabs of that region have had is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Look at that little baby. Look at that little baby. Oi! Woke up this morning playing. Have a good look at that Dash. Have a good look at that. That's the grandfather there. That's the grandfather. Have a good look at that. That's what you did. Yeah, yeah. And now we've got to go outside and see all his female relatives.
And it just, the pain that they receive is just, it's insurmountable. And it breaks your heart. You know, it breaks your heart.
Oh, Mama. Mama. Oh, Mama. God help you, darling. God help you. God help you.
And I looked at her and I just was like, wow. Just like, wow. What do you say to somebody like that?
Papa. Oh, bro. I don't have any words to say to you, but brother, God bless you. God bless you, man. Oh, Lord, help this fella right now. Oh, Lord, help him. In the name of the Lord, help him.
When something like that happens, makes you really determined to end Daesh, to kill them.
An integral part of understanding the Michael Enright story is understanding the love affair that he ends up having with the Kurdish people. And when he's over there in Syria, he is going to his default, which is to entertain people. So in these quiet moments in between battles, he's doing magic tricks for the kids.
Watch.
And they laugh. That was, for him, this huge victory, because he didn't just want to go over there and fight for the Kurds. He wanted them to appreciate it and to like him personally.
Hocus pocus. Whoa! Give me 5! Give me 5! Boom! 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 Boom!
Sometimes you see little glimpses of Michael perhaps trying to right some historical wrong.
Salam alaikum.
And provide this happy place for these children in very dark circumstances that he didn't have in his own childhood.
He was treated violently by his father. So when he saw other victims, when he saw the foul acts of ISIS, he was saying to himself and to the world, no, I won't let this happen. I will stand for justice. I will stand for victims. I will be a man. And a man not like my father. I will use violence for good.
Mike is a real frontline soldier. The proof's in the pudding. I mean, he has a head cam. I mean, there's footage out. You can't fake the funk on that.
And there's something else about this. He in his own mind, decides that he's willing to die. Not just willing to die, but expects to die. It's a very different thing to be scared of dying and to expect to die. Michael expected to die.
I was on an operation once. We'd taken Mahmoudli and we were going into Sudia, and it was a big village, and there were civilians, which always complicates things. I keep walking and I see a little boy, and he was white.
He's scared, this one, he's scared. Slonik, come on, Baba. Okay, come on.
But everything about this, my intuition was saying there's something wrong here. And one of the soldiers puts his gun down. Well, if you're a soldier and you put your gun down, that means it's okay. So I go over and I see this beautiful little boy. So I put my gun down and I try to do a magic trick for him. And he's not having it. And he's crying. And so my intuition was going, there's a problem here, there's a problem here, there's a problem here, there's a problem here. And it kept on getting louder. But I would see them asking for water, and it was just like, well, maybe it's okay. And I start telling him in Arabic. I ask her, his mom, his name.
Asif. Esnizanam dash, no dash, Asif. Tamam, Asif.
And now I'm a little further from my gun. Huge mistake. When I saw the other soldier put the gun down, I shouldn't have done it, mistake. So I turned the camera off, and literally within 4 seconds of me turning the camera off, all hell lets rip. And and all the civilians go, wow! The women run, all the civilians freak and run. So it's an ambush. We got ambushed. And I can't get to my gun because all the machine gun bullets are all coming right around my gun. And my unit, I've looked up, and they just go wham, and they run. So I just went inside this little room. But now, I'm in an ISIS house with ISIS soldiers all around me, and my kalish's outside. And it was the scariest time of my life. Not that I was going to die, but I knew I was going to get tortured.
Had Michael been captured at any point during his involvement with YPG, his certain death would not have been a good one. The media was full of orange boiler suits and beheadings, and to put it lightly, they were getting quite imaginative towards the end. He would have been a showcase.
It was all emotion. I was just petrified, you know, of the torture. But then something happened. The Brits and the Americans had not given us enough equipment so that we could all have a grenade each. But I'd taken one off ISIS. All of this is all from Daesh, including those grenades. And so they're going to give me, I'm going to nab one of them. We'd come across ISIS, and I'd taken a grenade. And as soon as I realized that and I pulled the grenade out, you'll have to forgive me for those people who are atheists or agnostics, but I felt the grace of God just go shh all over me. And I wasn't scared anymore. I remember at one point, I actually turned the camera on myself because I thought I might not make it out of here. But I thought even if they come in, maybe the SD card from the camera might survive and at least people get to know what happened to me. So I just held a grenade under my head, put my finger in the pin, and I was going to time it so that by the time they got over to me, it would have been, Wallah Akbar. God is great and you're going to hell, you bitch.
What might have been going through Michael's mind as he was hiding with a grenade to his throat? And why would he do that? Why would he think of taking his own life? It's one thing to die. It's quite another thing to die in the way that ISIS would have you die. That's a much worse alternative than letting the pin go and blowing yourself up, dying in a full consciousness that you've done what you set out to do. That's not a bad way to die.
Altogether, I was trapped in that house with a grenade at my head 19 hours. And then the next morning, sunrise, 6:30, they're not coming in yet. 7 o'clock, they're not coming in yet. 7:30, they're not coming in yet. 8 o'clock, and they're not coming in yet. And I just thought, I gotta go, I gotta make a run. And I got not very far down, and I saw them. And they looked like they were in black. And it was so far away. And I heard him go, Tom.
which is Arabic for come here. And so I knew what they were asking me to do, which was come to them, but that's ISIS. So I'm going to get tortured and killed there. So I put my hands up and I started waving my hands above my head, but it didn't work. They open up on me and they start shooting, and I don't know which way is home, so I run, and then I'm just running for my life, you know.
Fucking idea where I'm going.
And then I make a mistake because I turn down the wrong street, and I hear "Tall, tall." Now they're much closer, and it's the same men who just shot at me, and they're only about 300 meters from me now, and I see two Bixies, two machine guns. And so I just immediately turn towards him and I'm waving my hands. But I'm walking towards ISIS, I'm walking towards Daesh, and about 20 yards, I hear from the top of the roof, "Mustafa! Mustafa!" I said, "Ere Mustafa! Ere Həۋāڵ Mustafa!" It was my men, my own men had been shooting at me.
Well, those people who were asking me to go over there and I didn't trust them. They're my friends, so I've arrived. Can you fucking believe that shit? Woo!
I couldn't believe I had done it, and immediately, as soon as I knew I was safe, my thoughts went bang. I'm a soldier again.
And you know what I want to do now? Get a new gun and go straight back into those dirty motherfuckers. That's what I'm gonna do. Fuck you, Daesh. Come on! Hey, yes! This is my group. That's my group. They all thought I was dead. That's a sign of celebration over here.
And I got in, and then as soon as I came back, we'd captured 3 ISIS prisoners. And that's when I went straight back to soldier mode and intelligence searching mode. I started searching them for intelligence.
Hey, telephone? Telephone?
He ends up grabbing the cell phones off of ISIS fighters who they encounter. He becomes absolutely possessed by finding this information that he considers to be the key to getting himself back.
We think this one is Daesh, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. This phone. So, we've just gone through his phone, this one, and we found Daesh on his phone, like Daesh videos, and these are his friends.
And that would be one of the ways that you could tell if someone was a Daesh soldier or not.
So we've got another one. Oh, هەڤاڵ.
We handcuff him, we blindfold him, and we started interrogating him.
Hello, Dashi! Johnny! Yeah, salam alaikum. Salam alaikum. You, Yazidi, you?
I always talked to them. I always gave them crap. And I would tell them, you've got a problem now. You've got a problem. The problem you gave them is your problem now.
تدعشي أنا صار قدر من معهم أنت
يعني داعشي وش يعني قاعد بالبيت كنت أصلي.
And that particular one, my Arab friend, he wanted to let him go. I said, Leish? I said, why? He said, it's not Daesh. And he pulled his trouser leg up and he had tattoos. I said, so what? He got the tattoos 4 years ago and he became Daesh 3 years ago. I said, no. I said, take him to the second interrogation. And they went, no, Mustafa, we'd let him go with the refugees. And I said, no. And I really put my foot down.
Anyway, hey, Imta, come here, I'm talking to you. Come here, I'm talking to you, stay up. Imta tu befikram Daesh.
And it was like I was listening to my intuition, and my intuition was screaming that this guy is Daesh. He said, okay, Mustafa, we'll take him to the second interrogation. And he took him to the second interrogation, and Chia came back, and he said, Mustafa, ooh, Mustafa, like you're a smart one. And he showed me the picture. He was one of the wanted ones.
Amir.
That's one of their leaders. He was one of the leaders. So that felt good.
Because without me, he'd have gone to the refugee camp instead of the soldiers' camp. And now we had him.
Hey.
So, wow. No Belki Dash.
Dash, Sadisa Dash.
Wow.
Let me reiterate that. They were going to let the guy go. And Michael was the only one insisting he stays. And he turns out to be an ISIS commander, an emir. That alone should satisfy the DHS directive to get them a bad guy, and Michael should be allowed to come home to the United States.
You know, when I was stopped at the border, and they said, but if you can help get a bad guy, we'll let you come back. I helped get a lot more than one bad guy. I helped to get a lot of bad guys. And even then, I never left focus of that. I never left focus at all. It was like, I'm fighting this fight until we get to Raqqa. I just wanted to stay focused on that.
So now we're pushing into Raqqa on the first day that any troops have been in their capital for quite a few years. And who knows, but somewhere in this city right now are a lot of Yazidi women who have been held and gang raped, and salvation is on its way. Salvation is on its way.
Raqqa was one of the worst fights that the Western world has seen for many, many decades.
Don't underestimate how important this is. We're talking the capital of ISIS, and the outcome matters to America, Europe, and the people who live here.
Thousands and thousands of fighters died, thousands of civilians died, and it was just a grind, a slow grind to the center of the city.
And that's exactly where we went. That's where the Assyrian Kurds went, that's where the Yazidis went, that's where the YPG went. We all went.
More than 6,000 ISIS militants are still out there, ready to go underground, regroup, fight, and die.
I ended up in an all Yazidi unit, and it was for me the icing on the cake to fight with them, because that's one of the reasons why I'd gone, because of how they treated the Yazidis. I fought with them, and I remember fighting a lot from this one house. We're gonna go here, 4-story up. So that's where we're aiming for, right there. And the Yazidis, they went on the roof and they put a big flag, a Yazidi flag, and they put it up. And in the morning, when Daesh saw that their flag had been taken down and the Yazidi flag was up, they hit us with everything. We were the point of the spear, and everything behind us being us, all of this was all enemy, everywhere. So we were getting hit left, right-hand side, straight on. We got absolutely battered.
We would move forward and every group would break into a structure. We would go up to the rooftops with sledgehammers, break holes in the little cinder block walls in there, stick our weapons through, set up a defensive position, and just start lighting up whatever was in front of us to the north.
We'd fight and blah, 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 and then they'd start RPGing. We'd go in the back, and we'd wait until the barrage was over, and then we'd come back out to give them a barrage. And it was just bedlam. Absolute bedlam.
Once it was dark, we would leave the structures we were in and move forward about 2 or 3 blocks and break into another structure and do the whole thing over and over and over again until we cleared the city out.
So that's where we met Daesh, and we met them in Raqqa. And they either ran or they ended up dead.
Good morning, Raqqa.
Tonight, Raqqa liberated. The city that was the beating black heart of ISIS, finally free. And at the center of the city, a traffic circle where the extremists beheaded their enemies, where women were sold into slavery. Today, the center of victory celebrations for the US-backed forces.
So that was an incredible feeling. We were all so proud of what we did. That when the devil came out and took a human form, we beat them. We beat them.
غير الجدر قالت الخونكن اما بشتي قداش جباء رانا هذا خستن يعني وكي كيف خوشيكي هين مستر هاد شكرن نجبر بود كارن.
We won. Raqqa is clear.
هر نتوكي بجلو برقي خوا بزماني خوا بثقافته خوا حمي كربه اویا هشت گو جیان ببان باجارا به دیسا به وگراندن.
I'm so happy that they're now free and they can wear what they want and they can show those beautiful faces that God made.
بده عم يقول خلي هالوش الحلو دائما يطلع للعالم.
الحمد لله. الحمد لله. I feel I was part of something very important to take their capital off them, off an evil man. Yeah, I feel something. And now it was time to return home. And my plan was to head back with the intelligence that I'd gathered, and I'd be allowed to come back home to the United States. So I flew to Central America, and I went to the American embassy there. And I told them about the deal that Laura, the blonde lady, offered me and the intelligence I'd been sending to Angel Man.
Angel Man was supposed to be helping Michael transfer material that he had collected from ISIS to the United States government. So the United States government could look at that and say, "We're so thankful, Michael. You helped us fight ISIS. We're going to welcome you with open arms."
I went to the consulate and said, I'd like to come home. They gave me like another debriefing, and they said, do you have any more intelligence? I said, yeah. I said, but you need to let me come home. Let me give it you there. They said, well, we need to talk to your intelligence officer. I said, okay. And then ever since then, every time I call them, they say, we're working on it.
Angel Man was going to be his savior, and now Angel Man has vanished into thin air.
How does this make you feel?
It makes me feel a little bit sad. Makes me feel sad.
Why?
Because I'm not home. I'm not where I want to be.
I have been involved with Michael's campaign to come home, and when I came back to the States, I decided to engage the State Department. I had to write this sworn statement of how I knew him and what my role was in Syria and his role was, and I thought we were making some headway. And then I never heard anything back. And so I called, and then, just nothing.
I don't know who dropped the ball. I know I did exactly what I was told to do. And I know that I tried my best to do the right thing. And then I've spoke since then to other intelligence officers. And basically, off the record, they said the person who made you that offer didn't have the right to do that.
gave them everything. Gave them everything. There's something out there, these people who make these fucking decisions. These pen pushers, you know, bureaucrats who make these decisions about people's lives.
It was very disheartening, too, because the Department of Defense has brought back folks that have done way, and I mean way less, for the United States and the government. This is not hard, which is so very frustrating. The State Department people can literally say, yep, that's Mike. Yep, he lived here. Yes, he did that. And yes, he's here. Put him on a plane and bring him home. It's that simple.
We jumped through every hoop. We applied. They asked for more paperwork. We gave them. They asked for one piece of paperwork. We gave them 3. It just is a very, very big. It's a very hard pill to swallow because we did everything that they wanted, and it's just like, what more do you want me to do? What more do you want me to give?
I think Michael has a ledger book in his head, and in that ledger book is a debt to the United States because it gave him this life that he had dreamed of in Los Angeles and acting. And the way that he was going to repay that debt was to go fight an enemy of the United States. And now he has tried to return to deliver that payment, that final mortgage payment on that debt. And the way he sees it, the United States doesn't want to accept payment.
I'd just be very interested in knowing why. Anyway, it is what it is. Thanks.
Now he has no home. He has very little money. His life is turned into a nightmare exile in Mexico.
British people that have returned from Syrian Kurdistan to the UK have usually been charged and certainly investigated on various terrorism-related charges. In at least one instance, there was a prison sentence. And that's the kind of thing that would probably happen to Michael should he return to the UK.
If I went back to England, I'd go to jail and I'd be charged with terrorism. That's why I'm not going back. I'm not being arrested for doing something honorable. I'm not going to have that. That's not right.
Michael's life is not the Hollywood dream anymore. The country of his birth, he's afraid to return to. He's a person really with no country.
شبهت نافبر کردان و مایکل جقد خبونا ناسنامه یکه. بینم که چوا جکردار ماف نهات داین که جانا خواهی طبیعی حقوقی که وانا رجع ایروش امان تشت لسر مایکل جدیده. چما؟ شبر که مایکل در حق انسانیت را.
You know, in many ways, it's hard being this close to home and not being able to get there. But in other ways, I'm blessed that everything I've been through, I'm still here. I'm still alive because many of our beautiful men and women were lost during this conflict. Like Reese and John and my female captain, Malek. And of course, my good friend, my commander, Hەڤاڵ.
Chia was blown up by a suicide car. That was a really difficult one because I admired him so much.
He was an amazing man. The Kurds, they've suffered so much, man. They've suffered. The Americans pulled out. All the American soldiers who was with us, they didn't want to pull out. All the American soldiers didn't want to do that.
because they knew what was going to happen when the Americans pulled out. The Turks would come in and slaughter the Kurds, and that's what they did.
I think where the Kurds felt really deserted by the West is with the nature of Trump's withdrawal in the autumn of 2019.
We defeated, this group largely, defeated ISIS, 100% of the caliphate, 100%.
There is no longer a need for a U.S. presence in Syria because ISIS has been defeated.
The president's decision, which was announced via a tweet, is dangerous, premature, and wholly inconsistent with the facts on the ground in Syria and our own military's advice.
He didn't announce it even to his allies. He didn't discuss it even inside Washington. And it seems to do with the relationship with Turkey. From the Turkish perspective, the YPG is affiliated with the Turkish Kurds, who they regard as terrorists. And it does look a little bit like the US simply deferred to Turkey's wishes on this. IS is defeated. President Trump thought, so why do we need to be there now? We can leave. And this pleases Erdogan. And the Kurds were, I think, as shocked as anybody else when it happened.
History will haunt us. We are going to be complicit in the ethnic cleansing that occurs as a result of this absolutely abhorrent action.
This is the anguish that only comes from loss. The Kurdish people have already endured so much suffering, and every day of Turkey's offensive brings new chaos.
I had major league problems with President Trump abandoning the Kurds. We shouldn't be abandoning our allies. Here they are fighting on our behalf, essentially, without their own country, doing some of this country's dirty work. And part of being a patriot is recognizing those, whether it's a country or a people, the help that they've done, or the help that they have given this country to keep our soldiers from being shot and killed. You don't leave your friends. And I think that's something that Mایکڵ personifies.
The Kurds have a saying that we have no friends but the mountains. Well, they have a friend in me. The Kurds are fighting for dignity and honor and a place to call home. And to deny that, I personally think that's a sin against humanity. Everybody deserves a home. Every human being that's ever been born deserves to have a place that he can or she can call home. And my documents might not say I'm an American, but I feel like one.
The word هەڤاڵ means friend or comrade, and the Kurds are my friends. The men and women of the YPG and the YPJ are my friends.
I hope sometime soon that I get to go home.
And I hope that the world remembers what we did in Syria.
And we'll let the Kurds have a home too.